Pretty good.
And that was a bad throw. One more time. Come on. Come on. Ready? Got it. She's good, eh?
Yeah, and then she goes. That's it. She's done.
She said she goes over there because she says, "Okay, I'm done."
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Food Forest. It's been a while since my last video, and unfortunately that is because we've been back to work. So I've lost a couple free hours a day that I got for not having to drive into the office. So we're back to work, and I'm back to doing videos in the crack of the morning, you know, when I'm half asleep. So that's just what it is. If I want to do videos, I have to do it when I look like I just woke up, because I did. Okay, so things that we're going to talk about today, we're going to go around and check out the gardens, but we're going to do it through harvesting, because right now we're in the middle of harvesting a whole bunch of different crops. We're at nuts, apples, and mushrooms because it's starting to cool down and get a little wetter again. Then we're going to answer some viewer comments that I thought were very interesting. One is on giving back, one is on politics actually, and we'll kind of do that in a roundabout way, so as to be inclusive and spread the love instead of the divide that politics is always trying to do to us, that we have to resist and fight. And the third thing will be on, what is my single favorite tree on the planet? That's a tough one, and it'll have a bit of an interesting discussion to it, so we'll do that as well. We'll include timestamp shortcuts in the description of the video so you can fast forward to whatever topic you like, because I know not everyone's going to like all of those topics. But I think it's more interesting when I have to do fewer videos to still do longer videos with lots of different stuff in them. So let's get going. First thing we're going to talk about is harvesting the stuff that's growing on the property right now, because that's what this channel is mostly about, showing you how cool this life is when there's always something to eat. Not just apples, or not just an apple orchard, not just peaches. We're not just getting a spring harvest or a fall harvest. We're getting food all the way through the season, and it's always something different. So let's go see what we have. So it's just letting the dogs out, and they came running out to the street, and I wanted to just make sure they didn't chase anybody. And then I came across this, so I must have buried some wine cap spawn in this area here. And just look at what is happening here. So this is like hundreds of dollars of mushrooms here, especially when you consider all of these that are about to kind of pop up. All because I took a little bit of spawn and spread it the other day. I guess, well, sometime last year. So we're gonna harvest this, and then we're gonna probably dehydrate these, to be honest. We'll dehydrate them, we'll then grind them into a powder so that we can add them into soups. So the kids won't eat the mushrooms, but they'll eat the powder of the mushrooms because they don't know that it's there. So this is a lot of food. So we've also got more in this area here, near the Asian pears. This is like the third or fourth flush from this area, and I cut them with scissors because I don't want to damage. This is just the mushroom. For anyone who doesn't know, the mushroom is just the fruiting body of the organism. The mycelium net under the ground, see these white strands of hairs? That's the actual mushroom. This is essentially just the reproductive organs of the mushrooms. That's what we eat. So when you're harvesting mushrooms, you want to try to not damage the actual fungal net. So you don't want to pull the mushrooms out because you'll disconnect all that. And you want to just kind of come in here and be careful and cut them ground level, and then harvest them that way. Maybe I'll wait another day for these. More there. They're just popping up everywhere. This particular area has been fantastic. Here under the Drip Edge Guild is another place that I've spread the mycelium, and we've got more coming up as well. So I'm just going to go around checking all the spots. We'll leave this one. We'll leave this one to get bigger, and we'll just keep checking it over the next day or so. And this is an area here where I can have fairly easy access to get in. So I want to show you just kind of in and around these strawberries and this apple tree here. I'll show you what I do to propagate these. I've actually planted a bunch of Egyptian walking onions in here actually, so I'll be careful not to disturb them. You can see them starting to pop up. So I'm just kind of always going around propagating stuff. You can see some more popping up here. So we'll just kind of pull back some of these wood chips here. And you can just take the mushroom. This one's kind of sporulated, so there's some nice fresh spores on there. And it's literally as easy as this. We'll do some upside down, some right side up. And then you just recover with wood chips. And that is as easy as it is. That's all I do to spread the mushrooms around. You can also physically dig up a clump of the mycelium, and you can transfer that and spread that as well. The actual hairs, that's probably the most effective way to spread them, but this works as well, just spreading the mushrooms before and after they sporulate. This one might do better. I'm not sure exactly if it's better to do it while it's, you know, like this, or while it's kind of got the black color of the spores. I think this is probably better to spread, but I'm not entirely sure. If you know, in the comments, share your experience and expertise and wisdom with us. But this is a very easy way to get lifelong food, as long as you're adding more and more wood chips to your food forest over time. You can just keep adding more and more mushrooms as well. And while we're out here, might as well harvest some of these. These are autumn olive, and they're very, very high in fiber. So great berries. Invasive plants, so just be careful with it. So this back swale here, we're going to check all this area around the Jerusalem artichokes. I should have some somewhere in here. Nice shade in there, nice moisture from all the shade and the wood chips. And we'll head down, check out this cherry and the hazelnuts and all around there, because I do remember spreading more wine cap mushrooms in this area as well. I find this area one of my favorite spots because it just overgrows so much. And I know overgrowth seems crazy to some people, but to me it's just such a sign that I'm doing the right thing. It's a sign that I'm on the right path. And I'm noticing now that I believe I missed my window for the hazelnuts. Been so busy with the fishing trip and the Algonquin trip, and then going back to work now, that I'm seeing the new catkins up on the hazelnuts. So you can see the next season's catkins up, and I believe all the hazelnuts are gone. So I guess that's a gift back to nature, and hopefully some squirrels will plant them and spread some more hazelnut bushes around. But I did really want to get some, and I totally missed my window. There's just too much happening. So we'll kind of push our way through here. Still some raspberries. Any on the ground? Oh, we do have lots on the ground. Oh, and look. So they've all fallen. They've all fallen, and it looks like they've been picked through. Where's that one? I'm looking at one, yeah, like for example there. So it's fallen, and the critters have all emptied them out. So we'll push this in. Oh yeah, look at them all on the ground. see that? You know what? Some of these actually have hazelnuts in them still. I'll get a couple. They've fallen on the ground and we can get some of them. I got the odd one that's got a hazelnut in it. So I might be able to get some. That one should have one in it. It's so cool to me how it's just like another world under here. It really goes to show you, you know, what you create when you start planting stuff. Because, you know, this is just a couple hazelnut bushes and some raspberries, but microscopically under here, this feels, you know, if you zoomed in and this was a giant oak tree or something like that, you know, this here is like a big oak tree or something. You know, this is like a little mini ecosystem right there underneath all this. Tons of shade. It's really neat how when you zoom in underneath some of your plants, it just feels like this little mini world that's existing inside your land. You create all these little sub ecosystems. It's really cool. But we did get a decent amount of hazelnuts, and we'll try some of these, but for the most part I'm gonna go plant these. So this is kind of what your first couple seasons in a food forest is gonna be like. These are each, you know, a future tree that'll put out hundreds and hundreds of hazelnuts. So if I can go around planting more of these and channeling my inner squirrel, then I think we'll, in the long run, be happier about that decision than just going inside and eating 50 hazelnuts or whatever. So we're gonna go plant 50 hazelnut trees instead, and maybe eat 5 of them. What we'll do on the south side of this trellis here, we've got a guild with cold hardy kiwi, and we've got English walnut, black Carpathian walnut, which is a jugland species, but hazelnuts are fairly tolerant to juglone, at least from what I've read. So we will just go and plug these in all along this whole row. And hazelnuts also want to be planted together. They're wind pollinated. So ideally you're going to plant these in a cluster or a clump. And maybe we'll even pop up here, just on the south side. Sorry, ignore me there, or my shadow. We'll just put a couple in here as well, just to get a little bit of 3D wind pollination aspect going right underneath these grapes and the raspberries. And we'll just plant like this. Maybe this little corner guild here, we'll put a couple in here as well. This is the fun part about a food forest, is just you get this bounty of, you know, seeds from the nuts and the peach pits, and it's all about returning that back to the ground, returning that back to the soil, so that you can ensure your harvest and your bounty continues. So everyone's waiting for me to go on the bike ride, so I'm going to quickly go up, and thank you for watching the show, and put my shoes on and go biking. So have a nice relaxing Sunday, everybody. Okay, so next we had a question that asked, what is my favorite tree? And that is a very hard one to answer, because I've mentioned my favorite bush is sea buckthorn, just because it fixes nitrogen, it gives us the healthiest berry on the planet, and then it kind of does its job and it goes away. And while it's there, it really, really, really wants to live. So it does really, really well, especially in depleted soils, and it repairs the earth. That bush is kind of like a tree slash bush, because they can get pretty tall. But if I want to say exclude that, just for interest's sake, what's my favorite tree? It gets complicated, because my family loves peaches. So it's got to be a peach, right? But at the same time, a peach is just one dimensional. It's just food. And when I want to answer a question like this, I want to think bigger picture. What stuff is really important for the earth? And I think I want to answer the question on that frame of mind, because I think the answer is more interesting. So if I'm looking at something like that, I'm probably going to expand my horizon beyond just cold hardy stuff. So I'm going to be looking at stuff like a miracle tree. This is a tree with a fruit that actually changes your taste buds so that your brain receives sour signals as sweet signals. And it means that you can eat bitter food. Say you're kind of like a sugar junkie, or you don't like sour, bitter foods. You can eat a miracle fruit before you eat something else, and it'll taste, sweet and delicious, even though it might be bitter and sour, but healthy for you. So I think that's a really interesting tree, and it's not going to be my favorite tree, but it's interesting enough to mention. Along the lines of the sea buckthorn, I would probably have to think of the moringa tree as something that's tree-based, but kind of like the sea buckthorn, where it grows really well where it grows well. It's a nitrogen fixer. I'm 99% sure. Correct me on that, but I think it's a nitrogen fixer. And then the whole tree is edible, and the whole tree is extremely nutritious. The leaves are very, very high in many different nutrients, very high in fiber, high in vitamin C, very, very nutritious leaves, and I've never had one before, but apparently pretty tasty as well. So I like the idea of a versatile tree that is good for nature, good for your soils, good for your inner health. And it's nutritious, and it fixes nitrogen, it builds, it's just a wonderful tree. So I would say that would probably be my favorite if it wasn't for this one tree. My favorite tree has got to be a mangrove tree. And that is because of their critical importance in keeping the planet stitched and held together. Mangroves grow in water, and they're very, very good at growing where they're good at growing. What they end up doing is they end up tying shorelines together. And because you're mixing tree roots with water, and you're mixing kind of soil and falling leaves with this kind tying together, what you have is a big nutrient dense area at the edge of a forest. And we've talked about forest edges before. That's where fertility just naturally accumulates based on the way that the winds move through the trees, way that the sunlight has a gradient of full sun to full shade, so that everything can find its little niche that it wants to exist in. Mangroves are this on steroids. So mangroves tie and hold together our shorelines all along our oceans. This is so important for preventing soil erosion into the oceans. And then they're this habitat creation machine. I have to say that if I had one favorite tree for being the most pivotal and important tree on the planet Earth for keeping us going, it's gotta be a mangrove tree. So that is gonna be my number one answer. I put a lot of thought into this one actually, and I think it'll be an interesting thing for someone. You can now go and jump down the rabbit hole, look into miracle tree, look at miracle fruit, you can look into moringa trees, and you can look at mangrove trees. And these are all things that I haven't talked about before on my channel because I'm a cold hardy permaculture channel, but these are warm climate plants. So hopefully I gave you something new, some new information. And I would say my number one favorite tree on the planet is a mangrove tree. I got a little excited about trees. I'm a plant nerd, what can I say? I love trees. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about politics. Now, obviously, I'm not going to tell you the way that I voted in this election, but I want to put a little thing up front, and it's about all politics. Politics is designed to get you to vote for one person, one party. And often the most effective way to do that is to both tell you a little bit about why you should vote for me, but mostly tell you about why that guy over there is an idiot and why everyone who listens to that person or would vote for them are also idiots. And this is what we need to understand when we're talking politics with people, because you can't go out into the real world then and take that same mechanical viewpoint and apply it elsewhere, or else you're alienating yourself from half or more of the people out there. So one thing I really want to get up front is that the world is getting increasingly political. The fact that COVID-19 is a political issue, the fact that climate change is a political issue, tells you just how easy it is to split things and polarize people and get them screaming at each other from opposite sides of the room when we talk about politics. What I hope that my channel can do is bring that back, get people off the walls screaming at each other, and unite us all behind nature. So as an example of that hotly contested climate change issue. We can all agree that clean air is good. We can all agree that clean water is good. And we can all agree that having apples growing on a tree in our backyard 10 feet away from our house is really nice. And we can agree that having nature visit us and rebuilding ecosystems is really nice. So let's stop thinking about whatever issue it is that is separating us and trying to divide us, because that's what politics is trying to do. Let's think about the commonalities on things we can unite behind. What happens a lot online is that the discussions get very polarized, and then people are arguing with each other, and we stop listening and we stop being human beings to each other. I have family members that vote one way, another set of family members that vote another way. In Canada, we have multiple parties, so I have family members that vote in 3 different ways. And myself, my vote is like, I'm not a team player. I vote for whoever I think has the best shot of making change on the issues that I care about at the time. I voted for 3 different parties in my life, and maybe that makes me a dirty centrist, but what it actually makes me is it makes me research what is happening at the time of the election and who I think can potentially have the ability to impact the issues that I care about the most. Let's come together and let's talk about the things that we agree with so that we can move forward with solutions that actually address the problems, instead of continuing to fight. Decades pass and we're still arguing about a carbon molecule in the air, and we've done nothing to restore our ecosystems on the planet. Okay, so now we're going to talk about giving back. Now, I had another comment from a viewer on what kind of music do I like, and I thought that this was interesting because it's just not gardening related at all. I'll throw it at the end of the video so people who want to tune out can just tune out. But I'll tell you what kind of music I like. It's very broad, so just a warning, it's very, very broad. And that's because I learned classical piano when I was young, so I really got into classical piano through that. And then when I turned 12, 13, I wanted to pick up a guitar instead of piano, so then I got into rock. And then you start to learn Smoke on the Water, and you start to learn Paranoid by Black Sabbath. When you're learning how to play your guitar, you start to get into AC/DC, stuff like that. So then I got into the rock, or even hard rock, and sometimes even metal side of things. So I like a broad spectrum of music, right from classical to rock to heavy metal. My favorite is probably like the 60s and 70s. Stuff like the Eagles, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull. Some of those really instrumental heavy music, I really love it. I love like 5 or 6 Pink Floyd albums that you can just throw on and the whole album is a story, like The Wall, Animals, Dark Side of the Moon. Just so many good albums out there. Led Zeppelin 4 has got to be one of the best albums ever. I love Radiohead, like OK Computer. I love Linkin Park. Okay, so I also like to give back. And one day I had a comment that was from someone named Sarox. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. And I like to click on your photos and stuff now and then and see what you guys are actually producing as content. And this person had a music channel. So I listened to one of their songs and I loved it. So I'm actually gonna play it now to give some more exposure, because I love giving back like that. So this is a song by Sarox. It's called The Tree, the Moon, and the Cloud. So here you go. Thanks for watching the channel, and I'll leave you with one of the subscribers of this channel and their passion in life, making music. They're in Puerto Rico. Thanks for watching.
Las hojas secas de un árbol se volvieron a caer. La tierra sedienta, incapaz de ofrecer lo que necesitaba para sobrevivir. No exigía mucho. Y harina brillaba de una forma muy particular. El cielo que cubría era una sábana. there.